Hi, folks. Welcome to Crisco's Corner. Hi, folks. Welcome back. And those of you that are new, welcome. This is a piece that was on Fox News tonight. It's the mother of the so-called QAnon Shamon and his new lawyer, and how the lawyer tells that the FBI and other government agencies hid video. The video has been released in the last few days by Tucker, which the Democrats are having a fit over the whole thing. They're completely losing their minds. When they react that much in the negative, you definitely know you're on the right track. But I digress. I want you to see what YouTube puts up underneath for context. And here it is. It's really amazing. They don't call it an insurrection. They call it a capital attack. And a mob of his supporters and blah, blah, blah. And they use Wikipedia as the source. Anyway, let's get to the video. This is Tucker Carlson interviewing the QAnon Shaman's mother and his new lawyer.
So last night we talked to a lawyer who represented January 6th defendant Jacob Chancellor, the so-called QAnon Shaman. The lawyer told us that the government, the prosecutors in this case, in violation of the Constitution, hid exculpatory evidence from him and the defense in order to send Jacob Chancellor to prison for 4 years.
Now, where's the ACLU? Where are the old school liberals? I don't mean the crazy progressive ones. I mean the real liberals from when I was a Democrat, which I'm not anymore. I was even a local elected official as a Democrat. I left the party over a decade ago as a Republican now. Where are the old school ACLU free speech, government overreach, railroading defendants people? This is what you get from them now. Crickets. They withheld evidence. It's really that simple. Now, maybe it was because, well, the defense attorney didn't ask for the evidence. In many states, I believe in New York, all evidence on both sides, the defendant and the prosecution, has to give up what they have to each side. All of it. And if they don't do it and the person is convicted, they overturn the conviction and cause a mistrial. Now, this individual, he pled guilty. Well, he was looking at probably 15, 20 years. And the lawyer he had previous talked him into pleading guilty and waiving all his appeal rights. That lawyer should be disbarred, number one. And number two is all the judges and the grand juries in the D.C. area are all heavily progressive. They should change the venue of the grand jury as well as any trials. This is crazy. Anyway, let's listen on. It's very fascinating what they did to this guy.
He is tonight. Now, we showed you that evidence this week. It's surveillance footage that shows federal officers leading Jacob Chancellor around the Capitol like tour guides. At one point, they even opened the door of the hollowed Senate chamber for him and usher him in. So the tape proves conclusively that Jacob Chancellor used every action inside the building.
Whoops, there it goes. Yep. My brain stopped.
Now, that's one door that leads into the Senate chambers, and the Capitol police officer is going to see that it's locked, and they turned around and they found another way in. With Jacob Chancellor following them, a.k.a. the QAnon Shaman.
Was videotaped, committed no felony. And the government hid that fact. And because they did, the media were allowed to paint Jacob Chancellor as a dangerous terrorist who deserved to be killed.
Now, look at all the cops there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I see 8. And he walks right through like it was nothing. One's goofing around on his phone.
You know, I think the most amazing thing about the whole thing is watching the video. And on the Senate floor, there's a cop who's armed, and a guy bursts in, the QAnon Shaman, dressed like a Viking, and he basically talks to him. I'm watching. Shoot him. Yeah. Shoot him.
Whoops, there it goes. Yep. My brain stopped.
Now listen to that audience clap. Shoot him. Shoot him. All the BML protesters that broke onto federal property, in one instance, they tried to firebomb a federal facility with people in it to burn them alive. And this a-hole is from the Lincoln Project. What a shocker.
You burst into the United States. If he was dressed like bin Laden, would he have shot him?
Imagine if they said that about someone you loved. Well, now we know that the Biden administration created that perception that this man should be killed and then broke the law specifically to destroy the life of American citizen and naval veteran Jacob Chancellor, who again remains in prison tonight.
Oh, by the way, I neglected to say, he's a naval veteran. Honorably discharged. Served his country. Yeah, he's a little wacky. But why does a person with multicolored hair, tattoos all over their face, have no clue what gender they are, screaming and hollering at protests with tattoos all over their faces and everything else, and acting crazy and impulsive, gets more rights? In fact, a lot of the BLM protesters during Trump's inauguration got paid money for being arrested. Well, this guy just walks in the door as the police opened it and watched him come in, and he's going to serve 4 years in federal prison. This is what the supposedly left is screaming and hollering about for the last several decades. The unequal application of law.
The question is, what happens next? Martha Chansley is Jacob Chansley's mother. William Shipley is his attorney, and they join us tonight. Martha Chansley, thank you so much. First to you, what's it like? What has it been like for the last 26 months to see people like Steve Schmidt of the Lincoln Project on television calling for the killing of your son?
What has it been like? It's an awful thing to say. It's horrible. Honestly, I can't even imagine even saying that for somebody who just walked through open doors.
Yes.
Right?
How does it feel to know that the U.S. government, the Biden administration, hid this evidence and on the basis of that lie and crime sent your son to prison for years?
It's upsetting. It's upsetting. It should have come out 2 years ago. That should have come out 2 years ago. He's an innocent man. Everything that he said that he did is true. That he walked through open doors. He was escorted through the halls in the Senate. And part of the reason why he was escorted was because he volunteered to help them. He said that he saw people in the Senate and that he wanted to help them in any way he could.
Yeah.
And that's why part of the...
And that was be worried about destroying the Senate chambers. If you notice something in the rotunda where a lot of people were in a lot of the videos they showed, all the irreplaceable paintings, Washington, many other historical things from U.S. history, the 2 statues for each state that are also there, none of them were destroyed. None of them were defaced. No graffiti, no cutting up pictures, no smashing of statues. That sound familiar? Sound like an insurrection to you? Not one person that entered that Capitol building had a gun. None. Zero. The only person that was killed there was one of the people coming in by a Capitol police officer. All those other ones they say died during the riot was a lie. And they proved that, and that's why they're after Tucker Carlson, because he showed the police officer, rest his soul, who died a couple of days after the riot, either had an aneurysm or a stroke, I forget which one, totally unrelated. And they made a big deal out of it. He was murdered by the insurrectionists. It's a lie. And now they're caught in it. Instead of being smart and saying nothing, these morons are doubling and tripling down. Let's listen on.
The reason why he was led around.
It's very obvious. Mr. Shipley, thank you for joining us tonight. So this show confirmed
and thank
today...
you.
Well, of course. We confirmed today that the Capitol Police turned over all the video, including the video you just saw of Jacob Chancellor, your client, to the FBI right after January 6th. So the FBI had this videotape, and they withheld it from his initial lawyer in his defense. How is he still in prison tonight?
Whoops, there it goes. Yep, my brain stopped.
That's a great question. Sorry, am I supposed to say, or is
No, I was just asking the attorney here, as a legal matter, how is this?
Okay.
How is your son still behind bars?
Well, Jake did not have a lot of post-conviction options. The plea agreement that Albert Watkins talked him into signing waived all of his appeal rights. So he had no opportunity to go to the Circuit Court of Appeals to raise any issues connected to his conviction. He had limited rights to challenge the performance of Albert Watkins as his lawyer. When I came into the case, that's the first subject I began discussing with him.
Whoops, there it goes. Yep, my brain stopped.
Was my criticisms of what Watkins talked him into doing. It was a terrible plea agreement. It was an unconscionable plea agreement. I've done this for 35 years. I recognized immediately what Watkins had done wrong. Watkins had him plead guilty before the government was even willing to say it had produced all the video. The government in August of 2021 was still telling judges, we haven't been able to get all of the evidence to defense lawyers, so please don't set trial dates. Albert Watkins didn't care. He convinced his client to take the offer the government had made and plead guilty. So he's in a little bit of a mousetrap.
So, but now that we know that this was a travesty, I mean, the people responsible for it should be punished. Liz Cheney should lose her job today as a professor at the University of Virginia.
Here's the deal. I believe a federal judge somewhere in this country has to rule that to release this gentleman immediately on his own recognizance, maybe a small bail, basically say this guy's done time served. He's been incarcerated for over 2 years for loitering. He didn't stop any electoral college vote. That's a lie, an absolute lie. And he's the face, the so-called face of the riot/insurrection because of the way he was dressed. Yeah, he's a little wacky, but so what? If the law didn't apply to people that were wacky, we need 10 times more prisons. There's a lot of wacky people out there. The guy did nothing wrong. You may not like him. You may not like what he believes, but he did nothing wrong but walk through an open door. If you walked up to somebody's house that you didn't know, and the person was standing there that opened the door and then stood there and waited for you, you'd walk in. Anybody would. It's ridiculous. A federal judge needs to step in. And this gentleman needs to sue the federal government for withholding evidence. He deserves a settlement. We'll see how this goes now that the video is all over the place. How much of it has Tucker given the defense attorneys? I'm not so sure. I believe a lot of it, if not all of it. Let's listen on.
Knew this. She destroyed a man's life. But how do you get Jacob Chansley out of jail now?
Well, we're looking at that. I'm not sure there's an easy solution. There's not an easy road to that, to get the matter back in before Judge Lamberth in the district court here and to have him reconsider his sentence. In many ways, it's procedurally barred. We're going to have to come up with a creative way to get it back before Judge Lamberth. Frankly, I think Judge Lamberth may be a little bit unhappy that the government presented some videos at the sentencing to paint Jacob in the worst possible light.
And that's the other thing. This judge has got to be really PO'd, even if he's an ultra-progressive and tries to hide it, because it makes his credibility look bad. They lied to him, too, by showing twisted versions of videos without any defense at all. You can say, listen, we got videos, he's just wandering around, he's just a goofy guy. They didn't have any of that. So they lied to the judge as well. We'll see how he handles it, but a federal judge needs to step in and give immediate release order to this guy and have time served. It's been over 2 years in jail for loitering. Give me a break. There's people that actually firebomb police stations that have been prosecutors have refused to prosecute them. They don't even pay a fine, not even community service. This is an obstruction of justice at the highest level.
The way they described him in court as, the face of the insurrection, violent, and then, Judge Lamberth, frankly, he gave him the sentence that Albert Watkins negotiated. The sentence in the plea agreement was 41 to 51 months, and Judge Lamberth gave him 41 months. But I don't think Judge Lamberth today probably thinks he saw everything he needed to see when he made that decision.
Now, there's a video there. He has a blowhorn, the so-called QAnon Shamon. thanking everybody, thanking God, and thanking the officers, the Capitol Police, for allowing them to enter the building. Think about that for a minute.
Decision.
Yeah, I mean, this is just an open and shut travesty as far as I'm concerned. And Godspeed to both of you getting this unjustly convicted man out of jail. Martha Chansley, William Shipley, his attorney, thank you both very much.
Now, what's going to happen now? Now what they're doing is they're going after people. They're going after Taibbi and all the rest in the Twitter files. All it is credibility, and you're undermining democracy, and blah, 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 blah. You're not. The best disinfectant is sunlight. And if your shoe was on the other foot, believe me, every BLM protester that caused damage or even simply trespassed, every single piece of footage with that person in it was given over to the defense attorneys. Make no mistake about it. A lot of them got paid because they got arrested protesting and destroying property. This two-tier justice system will tear this country in half. And this isn't about this individual. This is about the over 1,000 that they've incarcerated and charged. My understanding is one lady, they raided her house, the FBI smashed the door in an early morning raid, and it was the wrong person because according to their facial recognition software, this lady looked just like her. So it must be her. God knows what that settlement was. They don't care. They wanted blood. They wanted a pound of flesh from these people. They embarrassed them by getting entry into the Capitol. And that was a failure on Nancy Pelosi's part not to protect the Capitol building with either more Capitol Police or National Guard troops. You can say Trump, 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 Trump all you want. This has nothing to do with Donald Trump. This is ridiculous and absurd. And I hope this guy, I'm not big on people suing government because I used to be a city councilman and I used to see it all the time where they try to in upstate New York. And 99.9% of it was pure BS. Just gentlemen got railroaded. So I asked the ACLU, why don't you send a lawyer to help this guy? But they won't because he's on the wrong side of the political aisle. And there you have it, a two-tier justice system, which is going to tear this country to pieces. Until next time, goodbye and good luck.